the Mavericks, Nico Harrison. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about this, but it's really it's a good time to talk about it because while we're, taking a huge dump on the Mavs all the time, everybody is, and it's warranted. The background or the context of this situation, as I see it, is the owners did not want to pay Luka all that money in the offseason. And so they put Nico Harrison in a super weird position. As I heard from people around the NBA recently, and we knew this, but I didn't know exactly how close. And I heard this from somebody in LA who's very close to like that whole deal. That Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison, like think about you and your like best buddy. Like that's how tight those two are. So like that deal getting done, I believe like the closeness of their relationship probably led to a bad deal getting done. Where what Nico Harrison did that is unforgivable is the trade just sucked. And, so the owner says, we're not going to pay this guy. I don't care if you guys figure out a way to make him look bad or whatever, because that was BS too. The way that they tried to paint Nico or Luka in a light like he was just, I don't know, like off the court, the drinking, the smoking, whatever. He wasn't taking care of his body. The guy drug you to the finals last year with Kyrie Irving. Like, let's not forget about that. Like the NBA Finals, there were points in the finals too. I think a huge touchstone for this whole thing detonating was Brian Windhorst after that game saying like there's a reason that the winners are in that locker room and the losers are in that locker room because Luka had been pleading for fouls. I think right around when he was fouling out. So there is there's a lot on the bone here, but bottom line is. Owners wanted him traded. Nico was put in a weird situation. He gets in bed with his buddy and makes a terrible deal where you don't even get a first-round pick. And you don't get anybody from the Lakers who's really affected. It just, you got AD, and AD is good. And we haven't had a chance to see him play much this year, if at all, for the Mavs. And Nico's quote, as we get to this press conference earlier this week, it was super weird because this is dangerous territory. When you start to select certain members of the media and you meet in like a cloistered environment, this happened when I worked for the Charlotte Bobcats at the time. The organization was actually headed in the right direction. Bob Johnson was the owner. Bernie Bickerstaff was doing a good job as general manager. Ed Tapscott was the president. Bernie was GM and obviously head coach. And it wasn't like they were setting the world on fire, but they were slowly building, doing exactly what they needed to do as far as putting together a situation where they would have a lot of cap space. Of course, they had high draft picks. And the team on the floor for an expansion team came out and played their asses off every night, right? You had a bunch of guys who were really, of course they wanted to win, but they were fighting for jobs in the NBA. Okay, well, that situation goes sideways because Bob Johnson realizes that owning an NBA team costs a lot of money. And the moment Michael Jordan appeals to him, both of the guys at the time, I think, lived in D.C. They had become friends just because, they were both terribly successful guys. Bob Johnson in business, Michael Jordan obviously in sports and business. They get together and Michael Jordan becomes the majority owner for the Bobcats. And it's a huge story, especially in North Carolina, right, where Michael played college basketball and the Bobcats are located in Charlotte. So Michael does not want to do any media at all. He's just like, and he's Michael Jordan. So it's like, you really can't get the guy to do media. The new president of the team was going to be Fred Whitfield. Fred was Michael's best buddy. Fred was a great guy, but just look up Fred Whitfield and whether he was qualified for that job. That is a question that I think we could answer kind of quickly. So Michael finally says, I'm gonna do a media session, but it's going to be closed door, and I'm gonna select like a few members of the media. And so now he's got my boss at the time, this guy, Scott Lightman, Scott was way over his skis. I mean, over his skis. A young guy in the NBA. His approach, you could say maybe was off a little bit. Great dude, but another guy that was in over his head, because now he's putting together a press conference for Michael Jordan, which Michael says, I'm not going to talk to the Associated Press in this press conference, because it was kind of like the Deion Sanders thing, because, somebody for the Associated Press wrote a bad article about me. So now Mike Cranston, who's covering the Hornets or the Bobcats for the Associated Press, I don't want to talk to him. Well, Mike Cranston has nothing to do with that article that was written years ago or maybe 6 months before. And a lot of the media was left out of this private session with Michael Jordan where there were no cameras. I know that part. I think there were some tape recorders, but I'm not sure. And there were a lot of pissed off media members that they were not a part of that, right? Because you got like 4 guys who cover the team for the Charlotte Observer alone. So are you going to let all 4 of them in? Like, no. Probably not. And then you have guys from, other newspapers. John DeLong, who has been on the Payoff with Pete Sober podcast. Check it out. JD is sober for like 20-some years, maybe 30-some years now. John DeLong is covering the team for the Winston-Salem Journal. He doesn't get invited, but Richard Walker does for the Gastonia Gazette. You get it, right? So the Mavericks did the same exact thing. The Bobcats had a bad situation, and they made it a lot worse. And so now Michael Jordan comes into town, and half of the media feels like they've been spurned by him. And guess what? He doesn't care, because he's not doing media again for another year and a half. I can remember Rachel Nichols coming to town to cover the draft for ESPN. She was supposed to be in the draft room with Michael Jordan. And like at the last minute, Michael was like, nah, I don't think I want her to come in. And I remember her clearly slamming down her clipboard in the hallway at the arena, because he didn't care. He was larger than life. And I get it. Guys have done that forever. But Michael wasn't getting any help from a PR perspective. Neither is Nico Harrison.